Welcome to the informational webinar on rebuilding Solano's small business grant program. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and really our focus of this call and purpose is to provide you with the information about this grant that you need to know. How does it work, and kind of what's the process, what are the requirements, what type of information are we really looking for in the application process, and probably most importantly is how do you get and understand the information that you need to submit a really good quality application so that your business has the best chance of receiving funding through this grant program. So that's where we're headed today, and I'll just start off and give a few introductions of our presenters. First of all, my name is Tim Merle, and I'm the director of the Solano Small Business Development Center. We support small businesses with training and one-on-one advising here in the county. And we partner with and are hosted actually by the Solano Workforce Development Board. We together, I guess I would just say, are really honored to be given the opportunity to administer this grant program from Solano County. I want to just do a quick shout out and thank you to the Board of Supervisors for appropriating this $2 million of funding. This is CARES Act funding to help our small businesses. They understand, we all on this call understand, that small businesses have gone through just a very difficult time over the last 8 months, and a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of economic challenges, and closings and reopenings and closings and all of that. So we're glad at least to be able to be on this call today talking about some good news, right? Some good opportunity to get some help. With that, I want to also introduce April Ziomek-Portillo, and April is our manager of business services for the Workforce Development Board. And I'm going to ask April in a moment to walk through kind of an overview of the grant and the requirements and how the process works. And then I also want to introduce Brianna Boyd. Brianna is the marketing specialist for the SBDC, and Brianna is going to walk through the application and answer any questions you might have about what we're asking for in that application and the information that we're requesting. So, gosh, I think with that we're ready to dive in. And so, April, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for coming this morning. I appreciate y'all being on here, just getting some information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and what I'll do is I'm going to go to our main website so I can kind of show you guys where things are on there, from the eligibility criteria, where to find that, as well as the linkages for the application process as well. So if you can just hang on with it a second. Okay, hold on a sec. Technical difficulties. Hold on. I'm sorry. All right. Here it is.
What would a webinar be without a little bit of technical difficulty?
I know, huh? I had things like buried and stuff, so I'm like, oh God, here it is. Okay. So let me go to, I'm just going to come back this way so you can see the main website. So here's our main website page. So if you come to here, you're going to go ahead and see this button here, which is kind of right dead set in the middle, just under our main picture. So you're going to click onto there, and this is, we're going to open up the page here, which is going to talk about what the grant program is, the summary. It'll talk about, there's also a lot of these linkages here, which has the summaries of what the grant is, what are some of the allowable purchases and reimbursements and things like that. So that area, we'll go through that in just a second. Right over here, you're going to find the ways to apply. And there's here where you've got, this is the online application, which I know Brianna's going to go through with you guys. And then this is the actual budget worksheet, which she'll describe that in a second, why that's important. As well as the downloadable application. We do have it in a PDF fillable version, so, and as well in Spanish. And then we do have it in Tagalog, so if you do need it in Tagalog, let us know. You can email Brianna, we can make sure that gets to you, because I don't see the linkage up here just yet, but it is an opportunity, or it is a possibility if you need that particular piece. But other than that, what I'm going to do here is, let me just start with the program summary. We received $2 million from the CARES Act through Solano County. We're, myself, Workforce Development Board, and the SBDC is administering these micro grants to businesses to help basically during this COVID pandemic situation where, you know, a lot of businesses are suffering from loss of income and revenue coming through the doors, basically. So we wanted to address that through this particular grant program. So some of the things that we're looking for in here is just really about how you're reinventing yourself, how you're pivoting, what are some of the things that you're needing for your business so that you can stay alive and well and start regaining revenue. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight on this is that this is not a first come first basis type application process. We opened it up on the 15th and we're closing it at the close of business at 5 o'clock on the 30th. And during that time, that's for best consideration. So if you want to be considered in that pool, you need to make sure that you have everything in by the 30th by 5 o'clock. Anything after that, we will still hold on to, but you will not be in that first consideration of application pool at that point. The other thing that, yes?
I'm sorry, I apologize for interrupting, but I forgot to say something really important.
Oh.
And that is, if you all have any questions, if you would, please put them into chat and we will answer those. And then we'll also have an opportunity at the end of the call to have you raise your hand and ask any questions you have. So apologize, just wanted to get that in there.
That is a good one because people might have questions. So we want to make sure we answer them. So the other thing that I wanted to highlight is where it says, please note. I will say that I'm glad all of you guys are taking the time to actually learn some nuances of this. People are still turning in applications with things like employee wages, benefits, rent, and utilities. This grant does not cover that. So what you want to do is make sure you don't have those things on there. They will not be considered. They basically will be pretty much just taken off of what you're asking for. So I would say make sure you think about through this piece how you can be very creative with this application process and your plan, but not including those pieces on there because, again, they're not allowable for this particular grant. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that this is CARES money, and this is some of the guidelines. It is a federal grant that comes through, and we have to follow these guidelines. So that part of it is not there. So just make sure you pay attention to that piece of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move down to the next piece where it says click here. And this is where you're going to get the eligibility guidelines. So I kind of wanted to walk through that with you guys. And it's basically a summary page, and we'll kind of walk through some pieces on here so that it can help you when you're doing your application. So your eligibility guidelines, which is this area right here, is pretty much that it's for-profit business. So no nonprofits are not allowable within this grant. So if you are a nonprofit on here, I'm really sorry. Unfortunately, this grant is not set up for that. But if you are a profit business, at any designation too. So if it's a corporation, a sole proprietor, all of you guys, all those type of profit businesses are allowable under this grant. That you are based in Solano County, you have 50 employees or less, you are in good standing with the state of California as well as Solano County, and that you can demonstrate the need for funding due to the impacts of COVID-19. So it's a pretty basic 4 bullets in what we're looking for. I know that we've been collecting applications for the last few days here, and what we have noticed is that there is a little confusion about the Solano County-based business piece. So just a tip there, your business needs to be located in Solano County. If you yourself live, let's say, in Concord, and you own a business in Sassoon, then that is allowable. You absolutely can apply. So it doesn't matter where you, the owner, lives, as long as the address of your business falls within Solano County border, you're good. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. It tends to be a little confusing. Now, if you do own multiple businesses, so you have a business in Concord and you have one in Sassoon, you still can apply because you have a business within Sassoon. Now, it does need to go for your Sassoon business, not your Concord business. So we want to make sure that you're clear with that as well, that whatever that your business location that's in the Solano County borderlines, that's where this funding will go to. Other things that just wanted to be clear with you guys is that there are other questions on there, because there's some other criteria that we definitely are giving some priorities to. So we still encourage every business that follows within this 4-bucket guideline, but we do have a priority area that will be looked at as well as part of this, is that if you do have a business that's under 20 employees, if you are a minority-owned business, if you fall within a group of like transportation, manufacturing, and admin support, those are another areas. These buckets are areas that have had extreme impacts, as well as areas to where we wanted to make sure that we, help the focal point to help the businesses within those areas. Other things that we're looking for too within there is that there's some priority cities as well. These cities in particular have not had fundings extra from their cities. So that would be Sassoon, Rio Vista, and Vallejo. Again, when I say priority, I mean that these are just some extra buckets that we're looking at. However, if you are a business that fit these 4 guidelines, please still continue to apply for it, because we are still looking at it globally as well. One other thing that I wanted to talk about as far as the eligibility guidelines, there is an area, and Brianna will go over this with you and show you on the application, but the part where it says good standing with the state of California in particular, a lot of folks know their federal ID numbers are pretty good with that. But there is a section also that we're looking for your state tax number. It's commonly associated with your payroll, if you have a payroll, as well as it's also called an EDD account number. So sometimes people hear it in different ways. Now, if you are a sole proprietor, a lot of them might have a federal number, but if you don't have a state, that's fine. You're just going to use your social security number on that portion of it. So it just depends on your structure and what you have set up. It's basically about your taxes and are you up to par with your taxes and you've paid those things. Let me move down a little bit further. And I wanted to talk a little bit about permissible activities and what is allowed in this grant to actually get reimbursed back for, or make some purchases to be reimbursed. And what I wanted to do is make sure that I let everybody know up front that this is a reimbursement program. We will not hand you, if you ask for $10,000, we're not going to hand you a $10,000 check. You will need to purchase these items first or have purchased them. We will reimburse back starting March 1st of 2020 up until through the contract, we will reimburse back. But of course, you do have to have the proper documentation, which would be receipts of purchase or invoicing. So we would need to know what those purchases were, how much they cost, the dates, if it was invoiced, you had paid it, that type of thing. So we would need to know. Now, when we get into, let's say you're awarded, you will get into an agreement, we call it agreement or a contract, which your business service consultant that is assigned to you will walk through those pieces to make sure that you have everything for that type of reimbursement if that's what you're looking for. The other piece to this as well is that
I need to send something to the...
I'm sorry, there's somebody that has their speaker on that's speaking and it's causing a lot of feedback. Make sure folks are on their... oh, nice. Sorry, it's just hard to hear while doing this. A little distracting. So the other thing is with that, that whole contract period, like I said, with the reimbursement pieces, would definitely walk through that to make sure that that fits into the contract as well for reimbursement. But the permissible activities that you see here, those particular these are some buckets that you really need to consider when you're thinking about doing the reimbursement, as well as current purchases, if you need that. So let me just go through those. Purchasing computer equipment, software that allows remote work capability, so that's your teleworking piece. So anything that you need that to allow people to effectively work and do teleworking. That is absolutely computers, software, hardware, that kind of thing is definitely permissible activity. Other things is paying for services or tools to convert to online or outdoor sales or deliveries. I know when we originally did a loaf grant back in April, a lot of folks were definitely at that mode of doing teleworking as well as trying to convert their online pieces to be able to produce revenue through sales. It wasn't just, I know restaurants were the typical, but there were people that were doing some online pieces to reinvent themselves. So that's another capability as well. Purchasing cleaning and sanitation supplies or services, basically to reduce the exposure and transmission per the reopening guidelines. So this is another bucket, PPE type stuff, you know, just things that you need to make sure that you are following those guidelines for reopening and keeping your customers safe, so that it could definitely be in those buckets as well. Replacing product or inventory lost or spoiled due to COVID-19. There has definitely been some interesting pieces on this I've seen actually being submitted. We typically think of food generally, but there are other industries that have items that do expire, and because of the closures and things like that, that could be an item that can be reimbursed back, or if you need to repurchase things, that piece. So that is definitely something you can, you know, look at within your business there, if that's something you can definitely justify. New marketing strategies to engage clientele. This is another opportunity for you to look at, is there some ways of I've got to market differently than what I do, just because of the way COVID it's kind of forced everybody to do everything, you know, touchless and, you know, internet-based. So this is another bucket area that you could actually think about. Is there some strategies for me to start marketing so it gets the word out? Machinery or equipment needed to reduce the exposure or pivot your product sales. A couple examples to this. I had a company actually had to purchase one of those hand jacks so that they can move some heavy equipment so they can always consistently clean it. So that's something that could work. I've also had companies purchase equipment to start producing things that can be sold online versus what they used to do being, it was a brew company is specifically what it was, and they purchased a canning machine to start canning items so that way they can start doing online sales, because they were a bar, essentially a tap house. So unfortunately that stuff was closed at the time. So those are some examples of things. So if you have some of those pieces to think about to help pivot, it's a great way of strategizing through that and how we can help pay for some of that equipment that you might need. Other things like activities that address supply chain challenges or acquire new bids. Things that if you're, having a problem with the supply chain, I know for a while there, just trying to get PPE equipment was absolutely horrendous. The prices have tripled, that kind of thing. So that's another opportunity to look at that. Acquiring new bids. I know we've had a company before that had to acquire new bids, but they had to do it and they had to buy a special printing machine to actually do the bids correctly. So there's lots of creative ways that you can think about with that, and that does help you, be reimbursed back for pieces that might be extraordinary costs that you wouldn't have endured before a pandemic, pretty much. And then other creative approaches and strategies to reduce or eliminate the need for business closures or to pivot operations result of COVID-19. So this is just another bucket to where you as your business, your business, what you need to do. And we wanted to be able to allow you to be creative and let us know, what are the things to help you pivot your business. And so you're allowed to kind of be creative in that sense and think about the way that you would strategize and structure that. Again, if you look at the bottom, it says the funds are not allowed to pay for employee wages, benefits, rent, or utilities. Please remember that. It's not meant for that. So please keep those buckets out. Now, I will say this, one of the main strategies of this too is when you see the application process, there is an area where you're going to obviously ask for a certain type of, how much funding you're looking for. We're not bucketing this to where you get like a $5,000, a $10,000, and a $15,000 grant. We have left it open for you to actually think about what you need and price those things out. So you can ask for different amounts that you need. However, I will say, you need to make sure there is a section above your budget planning to tell us your plan. So whatever you are asking for, you need to make sure that it matches, the plan matches and justifies why you need $10,000. So just to say I need $10,000 and your budget only says $5,000, that doesn't jive. So you've got to make sure that what you're telling us in your plan is absolutely telling us why you're spending the money and budgeting it. So this is not a loan application or a business plan. This is a grant application. And in grant applications, if you've written them before, you probably know what I'm talking about. But if you've never done it before, you really need to explain why you're asking for the money. This is the reasons why. This is why I'm affected, and this is the results if I get this money, and this is what's going to happen. So you need to kind of think about that a little bit and just take a second. I know when this first opened, a bunch of people rushed in and threw out applications, but they were missing stuff. So you want to be thorough with this piece too. So it needs to make sense. And it really needs to show why you need the money and what you're going to do with the money effectively. And we will be asking within our contracts when we write them to the awardees. I mean, you do have to let us know at some point what your outcomes were as well. So you want to make sure that what you're saying you're going to do is something you can. As well as, again, this is a reimbursement program. So if you're asking for $10,000, it means you yourself need to come out of pocket with the $10,000, and we will reimburse. Now, I will say one more tip to this. It can be in increments. So it doesn't mean that if you were awarded $10,000 that you have to turn on all the receipts at once for $10,000. If you needed to spend, $1,500 first, you can turn the receipts in, and we can reimburse you back in multiple times through that. So there is some flexibility with that piece, because we do realize folks may not have that revenue just hanging around. So we will allow for some adjustments with that and just some increment payments as they're spending. But there will be definitely some time periods within your contract, so we can definitely talk through that with your business service consultant that would be assigned to you if you were awarded the money, to walk through those pieces. Now, I will move down into the timeline so you guys can kind of see where our timeline is here. It did open on the 15th, It will shut down at 5 o'clock on the 30th. So we've already had multiple webinars already, as you can see. Today's our last one, so I'm so glad a lot of you were able to join us on this. So that way you can get your applications in by 5 o'clock on the 30th, okay? From that point on, we will start doing our review process. And we should I'm assuming probably like we're going to go through the review process within the first week of October. We should have an answer to folks out who actually are awarded around the second week of October, so that we can go into the contract side of things to get you going and rolling with the awarded money. What I would say through any of this, today you have the opportunity to ask questions. Please ask questions. I definitely would love to clarify anything you have. However, let's say, it's tomorrow at 5 o'clock and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how to fill this out. Let me ask something. Definitely email Brianna. Brianna's email is there. She can then help walk through any questions. If she doesn't know the answer, she'll find me or Tim, and we will make sure that your answers are you get answers to your questions. We want to make sure that everyone is getting these applications in, and our main focus to this is to fund as many businesses as we can. So please, please, please just make sure that you're following these guidelines, these instructions, the permissible activities. You're not putting in wages and rent and utility, things like that in there. So that way it just makes the process easier for you. And, you're getting the awarded amount that you are asking. If you're accepted, instead of being partial funding because of you putting some pieces that are not permissible. So please just walk through that for a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this over to Brianna, and Brianna will walk through the, I'll stop sharing here, and she can walk through the application process so that you guys can kind of see what we're talking about. And then we'll definitely open up for questions for sure.
Thanks, April. Hi, everyone. First, there are some fantastic questions coming up in chat, so definitely take a look at the chat and see the questions that are being asked. And if you have your own questions, you're welcome to submit. At the end of the presentation, we're also going to have if you have your own questions to ask, but you'd rather not write it down, if you just let us know that you have a question, we'll call on you at the end of the presentation. Also, I'm not sure, I don't think you mentioned April too. People can come down to the WDB office and complete an application as well. So we're at 500 Chadbourne Road here in Fairfield, and we're open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so you're welcome to come down to the WDB office, and you can fill out a paper application. And then the ladies at the front are also knowledgeable about the grant and can answer any questions that you have. You're also likely to find one or all three of us in the office at the same time. So we're here too if you need us. But that is another option that's available for you. And April, I know, mentioned that the PDF grants, the PDF grant is the same as the paper grant. You'd be filling out the WDB office. The PDF online is fillable, and those you can email to me. But so I am going to go through the application, the online application with you all. The questions are, the questions between the online application, the PDF application are just about identical. So they might just look a little different, with how it's laid out, obviously, but basically the same questions. So I am going to share my screen with you all. Oh, perfect. Here we are. I was hoping it would work that well. The last webinar we had, I had technical difficulties. So it's my turn to have technical difficulties, April, last time. So this is the online application. Again, it's accessible at both solanoemployment.org, which is the WDB office website, as well as solanoSBDC.org, which is the Solano SBDC website. So both websites have links to the applications and information about qualifications and the grant summary and all that fun stuff. So here is the online application. It's very important, as we mentioned, to look at the questions, fill everything out as clearly and detailed as you possibly can. So we're going to start off with your business name. Here at the top, please tell us the total grant funding you are requesting. Now, when you do your budget, you'll also be noting how much grant funding you're requesting, but we also would like that number here at the top. And again, be as detailed as you possibly can because it is a reimbursement grant. Include the contact information for business contact and title, your business address. Let us know what city you're located in. If you have multiple locations in Solano County, please tell us what your headquartered location, what city it's located in. Phone number, email address, your business website. And then here come the different questions. Is your business a Solano County owned business? You'd say yes or no. Again, if you have locations in other counties, as long as you're based in Solano County and you're headquartered here and you have employees here in Solano County, you are eligible for the grant. Is your business, you can check all that applied, minority owned, veteran owned, woman owned, LGBT owned, none of the above or other. Pick what is best applicable to you and your business. How long has your business been operating? The total number of employees, as well as the total number of employees at this specific business location. We're also looking for the legal structure of your business, sole proprietor, partnership, corporation. We did have a question in the chat and we definitely want to stress sole proprietors are welcome to apply. If you are a, one person getting everything done and working from home, as long as you're in good standing with the county and the state and you meet all the other eligibility requirements, please apply. If your business is a corporation, what is the designation, C Corp, S Corp, or LLC? Go ahead and let us know. What is the business federal ID and the California tax number, EDD payroll tax number? April discussed that earlier. And then these are very important. Is your business current on all state of California tax obligations and Solano County obligations? Please be sure that you answer those appropriately. What is your business industry? There's quite a few industries to choose from. If you're not able to find your industry on this list, go ahead and click Other Services. And then here's the question, please describe your business product and or services. One benefit to filling out the online application versus doing the paper application is these, it is important to note, this is on Google form, so you have to have a Google email address in order to access the form. If you don't have a Google address, you can create one. We're not storing your Gmail address at all. We just need the information from the form. So that's also very important to note. But one benefit to doing it online is that these answers, we give you lots of space. So you could definitely elaborate more online than you may be able to do on, let's say, the paper application that you're filling out in person. The PDF, if you do it on the computer, the PDF is fillable, but you definitely have a lot more space here on the online application. So here, please describe your business products and or services. We also asked some questions related to the impact of COVID-19 on your business. Please tell us how your business has been affected by COVID-19 and how you have had to shift in response to the pandemic. This is all the way from March until now. Let us know if you've had to close, if you had to reduce hours, if you've done furloughs, if you closed, then reopened, then closed again. Be honest with us. Tell us how the pandemic has impacted you. How many employee jobs were affected by COVID? Did your business issue layoffs or furloughs? Again, you're welcome to be as honest as you can with these answers, and note that your answers to these questions will not disqualify you from receiving funds. Actually, all your answers to these long form questions will not disqualify you from receiving funds. Has your business been awarded grant money from another COVID-related fund since March 1st, 2020? This does not include EIDL or PPP loans. These are grant monies from perhaps the city of Fairfield. Other Solano County cities have grant programs available. Anything related to COVID grant money. And once again, it does not disqualify you if you did receive funding. If you did, please still submit this application. So then we ask you some questions about the Solano Small Business Grant Plan. Provide a description, and this is the question April was discussing earlier. Provide a description of specific planned actions that will allow your business and employees to continue operations, and or show how you will effectively pivot operations in response of the COVID-19 changes to business operations. So this next section right here is where you can access the grant budget worksheet. And I clicked on this link right here to show you what it looks like. So this is the grant budget, the budget worksheet that you really need to be detailed as you complete it. Different budget categories can include things like PPE, if you're going to list gloves, hand sanitizer, the plastic for your business. That would all go under PPE. Marketing, if you're doing anything related to your website, or if you're planning to hire a consultant, or if you'd like to get banners for your business, that would be under marketing. Hardware, software, if you are transitioning to online services and you need software to allow your employees to work from home. Those are just some examples of budgets and of budget categories that you could use. And there have been a lot of questions about budget categories. So if you have additional questions, please feel free to include them in the chat and we'll be happy to address that. What's most important though isn't necessarily the budget category, but the description of what you're looking for. And please, again, as April had mentioned, be as specific as you can. Definitely list items you know, as concise and clear as you possibly can, as well as let us know if it's a past purchase, which means you made the purchase between March 1st and now, or if it's a future purchase, which means you're going to make it after you receive the grant funding. And also let us know what the cost of those purchases are. Once you have an idea of what you're going to be requesting, that's when you go back to this question right above here and provide really a detailed description of how those purchases will help you and your business as you continue, as the COVID-19 pandemic continues. And again, be as honest as you can and as clear as you can and detailed. That is awesome. From there, this will ask you to upload the grant budget worksheet that you completed in the above section. You would just click add file, and then that would open your files on your computer, and you could select the file that you want to upload. So it would be your grant budget worksheet, and attach that to this application. From there, you'll hit next. Because I didn't fill out the application, there's certain things that are required, so I won't be able to move on to the next page. But the next page is basically an electronic signature. So you'll simply write your name and the date, basically saying that you represent the business, and I'm submitting this application on behalf of my business. And then from there it goes to us, and that is how you do the application. So I am going to stop share so we could go back to discussions. Excellent. And again, if you have any other additional questions after this, you're welcome to email me. I will put my email in chat, but it's bboyd@solanowdb.org, and I'll write it in chat right now. Okay, Tim, April?
Thanks, Brianna and April for walking through that. Hope that was helpful to all of you. Really, that's what we wanted to present to you today. And at this point, we'll really turn it over to questions. If you have a question, just unmute yourself or put your hand up so we can see you. There's a lot of folks on the call. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, I'll go through a couple of the most often asked questions here and answer a couple of them. We had a number of questions, good questions around how the reimbursement process works and sort of the timing of this. I mean, the first thing to know is that you need to wait after you submit the application, of course, to understand if you were approved or not and how much that you were approved for. And then the next step is that you either have spent the money or will spend the money, and provide the receipts for those and proof of that you've expended those funds to us, so that you will be reimbursed. This is not something that you just get a grant dollar or a check up front. This is, it's really reimbursed on the back end. So just want to re-clarify that.
Tim,
yes.
but
Yeah.
I did want to put an emphasis on that. I did see quite a bit of people in the chat talking about that. So please do not make purchases right now to expect to be reimbursed back, because you may not be awarded the money. So don't do that yet. Just make sure that you collect the receipts that you might have already spent,
Right.
and then budget in the things that you would like to spend on. So I'm sorry, Tim, I just want to make that clear, because I saw a lot of that going on, and I don't want people to make purchases and they're not awarded. So
yeah, that's
just remember, don't make purchases until you get it.
The thing is, make sure you understand that you have it and how much it is.
Tim and April, yeah. I received a question through private chat that I wanted to toss to the two of you, because it does have to do with payroll, but it's related to COVID. And I've heard this question before, so it'll probably be good to mention it. This person said that they brought on extra janitorial support until the end of 2020 in response to COVID. Would that extra janitorial support, even though it's technically payroll, could that be included in the grant?
Unfortunately, no. If it's payroll, if you're paying it out of your payroll, no. But if it's a contract, like let's say, I know some folks may contract out someone to come in and you're paying through a contract type invoice piece, then yes, that could be. But if it's a person that you're paying, it's still payroll. It's still considered payroll.
Another question that has come up is, can I do this if I'm a sole proprietor or if I have a home-based business? And the answer is yes. You are eligible either way. Let's see. Another one is if you, what was that, Brianna?
This is another question that's come up a couple of times. How would you calculate part-time employees to become full-time employees? What's the best way of doing that?
Again, there's no payroll, so in
terms of how many full-time FTEs you have on your staff, if they have part-time employees.
To put on the application?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just put, like, if it's a half-time person, just 0.5 on there. I mean, it's just whatever percentage of a full-time that you have is what we're looking for. So just do it on an FTE basis.
Tim, there was a question I saw that Joanne, I'm not sure where you're at, but there is you were asking about the online app, about including the budget form. If you do the online one, yes, you have to download that budget fillable form and then upload it into the system. But if you do the PDF version, it is already included in the application. So you would just fill out that application and send it to Brianna, and you do not need to upload that extra budget sheet. The issue is the online app that's through the Google Docs doesn't allow for that charted piece. So we had to have a separate uploadable piece. But if you do the actual physical application, like you come in and fill it out, or you do the PDF fillable form, that is already included. So that is considered all encumbered in the one piece. So you kind of can choose which side you want to do.
Cool. So one other question that's come up a bit is, if you received a PPP or an EIDL loan, are you still eligible for this grant? The answer is yes, you are. That does not preclude you from applying.
I see another question here that talks about if the grant covers new insurance expenses. So basically, this is how it goes. If you have an extraordinary cost that you would not have generally running your business because of COVID-19, you can include that, but you're going to have to make sure that you explain that in your plan. I have had a business ask before. I'm going to give you an example of a transportation business that was asking if it's just like, you're just adding fleet and you're doing, you know, you need to have insurance, then no, that's not, because that's something that's not extraordinary. It's, if it's an extraordinary cost due to COVID-19, then you can include it in your plan. But please explain what it is and why it's extraordinary.
Right. Any other questions?
Someone. No, go ahead.
Someone said, once we submit the application, how soon will we find out if we will be eligible for the grant?
As I said before in the timeline, it shuts down at 5 o'clock on the 30th. We will that next week be going through and reviewing all the applications. So it should be as early as the following week in October. So probably around the second week of October, we should be then being able to let you know. It should be in a form in an email. And I know we've also done some calling before too, just to make sure that we get in touch with that person to let them know.
And then someone else asked, would I be considered woman-owned if I am an 80% shareholder?
Yeah, it's 51% and up, I believe it is, right, Tim?
Yep, that is correct. Yes, and you would be. Yep.
Yep. Oh, by the way, the full-time hours is considered not just 40, it can actually be 32. So 32 and up is still full-time.
Good. I just saw one come in that is the amount requested concrete or flexible?
I can answer that, Tim. So you want to make sure that you are asking for what you are wanting and justifying. If you were awarded, let's say, the $10,000, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I really needed 15, you're only going to get the 10. So it is your due diligence at this time to make sure that you're budgeting correctly. Make sure you're going out and you're finding out what the prices are for things. I think people are, I've seen this actually where folks are not really going out and actually really procuring what things are really costing. So make sure that you're doing that. That way when you're putting stuff down on the budget, so whatever you're awarded is what you're awarded. There is no change. Because we are trying to give as many people these loans, there will not be extra money.
Another sort of related question is, based on the amount that they request, is it possible that they may get an answer of yes, but it would be less than for what they requested it for?
Yes, it can be, yes. There are times that people will put their plans together and they don't justify why they're purchasing certain things and they don't fit in those permissible buckets. We would decrease that amount. But we have done partial funding, yes, and we will. We are really trying to make sure that we fund these awards out to as many people as we can. I'm kind of looking through them too.
We are having a hard time acquiring bids because of COVID and the limited workers on site. Can we add that to our budget? Acquiring bids. Is that?
I think they would need to clarify that a little different, because if it is a payroll thing, like you're payrolling people, then no, it's a payroll piece again, and we're not funding that out. But if it's something else like a contract or you need something else to make that happen, then you're going to have to kind of explain that.
And what if you filed a tax extension? Does that disqualify you?
I know that we're being flexible with those pieces, and that is something that we can clarify on an individual basis if you're awarded the funding. So it just all kind of depends. I can't really answer that. Plus, I would say, you know, any kind of tax related questions, you really are going to have to contact your folks.
Someone asked or mentioned that they were late to the webinar and wondering if this will be available later to see. And the answer is yes, these are being recorded and they'll be available on our websites.
And actually the webinar that was last week, there is a link to the webinar on both the Solano SBDC's Facebook page and the Workforce Development Board's Facebook page. So if you'd like to watch the webinar from last week, see if there were other questions asked, you know, you're welcome to.
There was one other question that we kind of skipped here a little bit was, and I kind of seen it over and over a little bit, is budget categories. That had come up the last few that we've done. And budget categories, the reason that there's no budget categories like blanketed ones is because, again, we're allowing you to come up with what you need. So you need to kind of condense your budget plan into categories. So we're allowing you to be creative with that. We gave you some examples like hardware, software, marketing, PPE, building expense. I've had businesses that want to go to touchless things like the the faucets and the flushable toilets that are all touchless. I mean, sometimes you need to have someone come install that, so you can put those type of buckets on your list. So there is no blanketed ones. It is about you kind of coming up with what that is, and then it all fits into your plan. I can't keep stressing that enough. Make sure you have all of that make sense.
And also have it be as detailed as possible. I mean, if it comes down to even saying, going by, you know, this cost is $500, this cost is $1,000, this cost is so on, you know, just so we can see the research that you put into it. And just be as clear as and honest as you can with us.
I'm still looking at all the questions coming through. If anybody wants to ask a question too, please raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Let's see, Danielle asked, would equipment and software for added services be okay? Yes, as long as it relates to COVID impact, or if it's helping you to deal with the COVID situation, those would both be reimbursable.
So someone asked, if I am president and CEO of an S Corp and 50% shareholder, is our company considered woman-owned?
Well, the company would have to be owned 51% by a woman. That's the primary requirement there. So if you only own 50%, you know, that wouldn't make the bar.
There was also a question about spending less than the grant. If you spend less, you spend less. But I will say this, that you will be in contact. If you are awarded, you will have an assigned business service consultant from the Workforce Development Board that will coach you, walk through these pieces. We have done some extensions for folks just so that if you're not able to do all the spending, but it doesn't, to be honest with you, it doesn't come very often because most people, they need what they need. So that's why it can happen, but we could definitely talk through that piece of it.
Any other questions? We do have another question about what is the federal number. I know you mentioned that a little bit earlier, but if you want to go through that one more time, April.
Yeah, so you've got your FEIN number, that's your federal number, that goes in that federal bucket on either the application or the online application. I see your hand up, Jack. Hang on one second. And then the second one is the state number. And what I was referring to that is it's referred to either an EDD account number, it's referred to as a payroll number. I've had businesses have to go to their tax folks to get those kind of numbers because they don't necessarily do that. So again, you will have an opportunity to ask more questions if you're struggling with that piece of it. You can always, again, email Brianna if you are with that, but that's the best explanation I can give you on that, is that you got a federal and you got a state, and they are two different numbers. Jack, you had a question.
I did. I put in there about developing a new product. I'm trying to reinvent myself since my current industry has gone to zip.
Are you asking if that's allowed?
Yeah. I'm in a new product development. I've developed a prototype, and I'm looking at going to production. It'll all be within Solano County also.
I think what you're going to need to do is kind of relate that pivoting that you're doing to the COVID-19 situation and how you're pivoting. So you need to explain all of that in your plan.
Okay.
And then we can look at that piece of it. I mean, I don't have that in front of me, so I couldn't say yes or no, but it would just be how you would describe that and how that's going to pivot your business and what those outcomes will look like.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would lay that out. And Jack, I also just want to mention to you that the SBDC could be a resource for you if you're doing that to help kind of sort of develop a new business plan and marketing strategy. Let us know if we can help with that as well, because we know that's a tough thing to do.
Is Jay Paul a part of this at all?
Jay Paul is a partner with us. Of course, he's with the Solano EDC. Great guy. So he's a partner. That's for sure.
I work with him quite a bit.
Oh, good. Great. Quality guy. Absolutely.
There's also a question that's coming through from Jessica. I see your question. I think you've asked that up there and up in the chat. This stuff moves so fast. Sometimes it's hard for me to keep up with it, but you're talking about the receipts if you're approved and what that looks like. So yes, you will need to provide receipts. So if you were approved for any past purchases that you had done since March 1st, make sure that you have those. They don't necessarily, let me just say this, they do not need to be submitted right now with the application. Just account for them, but also know that we will be asking for documentation to prove that that purchase has happened. Remember, guys, this is a federal grant, so they do require documentation. It's kind of like your taxes. You got to show what you've done. It's the same thing with this. So yes, you're going to need receipts. When you then are approved again, let's say you have future purchases that you want to make. Yes, as you're making those purchases, you need to keep your receipts. If you've done invoices, your invoices need to show paid, all those type of pieces. But I will say, again, you will be assigned to a business service consultant. You will have, that one-on-one time with that person that you can actually ask questions to make sure you're getting the right documentation. And those are definitely great questions. But yes, keep your documentation, all those receipts.
Hey, Tim,
yes.
We had someone ask, and I feel like I should just turn this question to you. We had someone ask if an SBDC advisor is available to anyone. And so I wanted to turn this question to you about SBDC advisors.
Sure, absolutely. It is. We can support businesses up to 500 employees. So if you have less than 500 employees, you're eligible to receive SBDC services. And the one-on-one advising that we provide, we have a team of about 15 business advisors. That advising is provided to you at no cost. And that in addition to a number of other training resources. And we also, because of our great partner, the Workforce Development Board, have a number of programs that can help you if you're hiring new employees, if you need assistance on the talent side. So we're absolutely available. And just go to our website at solonosbdc.org and click the Apply Now button to apply to become an SBDC client. We'll take care of you. I see, is it Roxana has her hand up? If you can want to unmute yourself.
Okay, I have a question. I need to buy some supply for my business. I was unable to do so because of COVID-19. So I need to buy those in order for my business to get going. Can I go and get an estimate and submit that estimate? And if I'm approved, then I can go ahead and buy it?
Yeah, I'll answer that, Tim. So yes, you can. I would suggest that actually, because then you kind of know how much money to ask for. But again, you need to relate those purchases to their extraordinary costs due to COVID-19. So remember that. It's just not about getting an estimate and you don't relate it. So you've got to relate it. So remember to pay attention to that. But I would say so. There had been people in the past with some of our other grants we've done that didn't do that, and they came out not enough money. So definitely, if you can get it fast.
Yeah, we have a tire business. I just don't have enough inventory that people are coming in that I don't have to sell, and I don't have anything to sell because I didn't have any money to stock the inventory. So that's what I was thinking, if I go ahead and get an estimate from the vendor, so I can submit that estimate in order for me to restock the supply so I can have a business going.
Well, I would also say for you to look at the permissible activities. So if it is due to, you know, replacing product or inventory loss, it could be things like, there was another bucket on there. I totally forgot it off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I forgot the other buckets. I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but you just need to make it related to COVID-19. It's not just about purchasing items because I need it for my business to sell. Why? Because of COVID-19, you are missing those products. So it could be, you know, that the rise of cost was that, or the supply, that's what it was, the supply chain, that if the supply chain isn't there. So you've got to relate that.
Okay.
Good deal. So I know we're starting to get people drop off and we're well past the hour. So we're going to wrap things up here. But I want to thank you again for taking the time to be on. We look forward to receiving your applications. Let us know if you have any questions further on this. We've provided the phone numbers and emails to contact us. We want to support you all we can on this. And I would just close by saying two quick things. One is just to reiterate what April's done a great job of articulating, which is please check the requirements of this application before you complete and submit your application, just to make sure that it all fits. Okay, taking a little extra time on that will be really helpful. And last is that we 2 million is a really significant amount, but we know it's never enough. We wish we could fund everyone. There's going to be some that we don't get to. And I just want to say that, first of all, and some of these things, it's like, why do you have to have all these requirements and rules and all that stuff? A lot of it comes because this is, this is CARES funding, that's federal funding, and there are requirements around it that we have to follow. But we just we'll let you know that any decisions that we make of who gets funding, who doesn't, what's allowed, what's not, we're just trying to be good stewards of the funds that we've received. We want to distribute it to as many businesses as we can that we believe will have the most positive impact on saving jobs in this county. That's the bottom line. That's our goal in doing this. So please keep that in mind. That's the spirit and intent of how we're approaching this. So with that, again, thank you. We're here to help, and hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.